They call him Seatin, the man of legends.
Hey guys, what is up? It is Seatin here, hello and welcome to the Planar Focus and Essences Guide. In today's video we're going to be talking all about planar focuses and the essences, going over kind of what cores you should be building at level 60, thrown in with a lot of personal advice from myself and also factual advice on sort of what is the best in slot sigil or sigil. Sigil, we'll go with sigil. I don't know the proper pronunciation of that, but sigil sounds good enough for me for the moment. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. This video is actually for one of my subscribers known as Hoity, who is pretty awesome. He sent me a list of questions earlier, all about planar focuses and essence, so we're going to sort of explain what is the best while also going through his list of questions about planar focuses. So all that fun stuff to look forward to on the video today. Also, something I just wanted to point out, right, something in my previous videos I'm notoriously bad for doing is running around a lot and sort of moving and not being able to stop touching the keyboard. Today I've challenged myself to do this video without falling off this branch. So literally, if I move at all, I'm going to fall off this branch, and the aim of the video is to stay away from the buttons that move my character and stay on the branch while explaining all this stuff. And if I do that, I will be happy. But if I fail, I will still post this video anyway. So, yeah, just getting on with the questions. So the first question he sent was, should I have several different planar focuses for different raids or dungeons? Now, the answer to that is quite simply no. You only currently need 2 sigils in the game at the moment. You need 1 if you're planning on tanking, and 1 if you're planning on being a DPS and or healer. So most people are going to need the DPS and or healer one, but only a few people who sort of want to pursue tanking are going to need that one. Now for the DPS and or healer one, this is my personal advice here. You only need 1 sigil if you're going to DPS and or heal, unless you're like in the top 0.001% of people, and these people won't even use this guide. So basically, the idea to build your sigil if you're a tank or if you're a DPS or healer, is to get nothing but crit power essences. Now, crit power essences are a lot better than spell power essences for DPS, and also their spell power and crit power are kind of borderline for healing, but spell power kind of rears slightly ahead for healing due to the fact the one thing you love as a healer is reliability. You know when you cast this spell, you want to know it heals that much, whereas crit power, it's a bit of a gamble. Sometimes you crit and then you do loads more damage, and sometimes you don't, but that's all sort of fun and games when you're DPS, and there are a lot of like debuffs which increase your crit chance, so that makes crit power a ton better for DPS, adding to the fact there's a lot more crit power on essences than there is spell power. So like on some essences you'll find anywhere between kind of 80 to 90 something crit power, whereas on other essences you'll only find sort of 40 to 60 spell power. So crit power is a lot more predominant, which just makes crit power essences like 1,000,000,000 times better. Adding to the fact you're always looking to maximize your DPS, whereas with the healing, it's more about the skill of the player, and gear doesn't actually matter too much in this game as a healer. Literally, if you know your shit, like, no fights are very gear dependent on the healers. It's all about sort of knowing when to pop your cooldowns, knowing when to use X, Y, and Z ability in a good combination, and just making sure, that all flows right. So that is my answer. You have 2 different ones. One for tanking, which is pure endurance, and one for DPS and healing, which is pure crit power essences. Now, that is my opinion. Feel free to disagree, but that is what I do on all my classes, and I do pretty damn awesome. So the next question was, is it enough to get a 2 greater and 4 lesser slot planar focus, or is there something better and rather easy to get that I should aim for? So basically he means, is the standard kind of 6 slot sigil the best one that you can have? Now, that kind of is true. You can't get any bigger sigil than a 6-slot one. However, there is a sigil that is slightly better that can be earned through doing PvP. But the kind of cool thing is you don't actually have to do any PvP to earn it. There are a variety of PvP quests in Tempest Bay, but a lot of these quests don't require you to actually fight people. They're more like go in the world and gather objects, and doing them for a few days, well, probably like a couple of weeks, can get you this Mortiferious sigil. I probably butchered the pronunciation of that, but basically this is the best in slot sigil because it gives you an additional 50 endurance, which can be very helpful to new players in the game, especially people who are trying to crack on with raiding. But this really isn't mandatory or needed in any fights at the moment, but it will be pretty damn useful, you know, if you do want to max it out. I'm just throwing it out there that it is the best sigil in the game at the moment, and if you want to max your character, go for it. The marks are pretty damn easy to grind, in all honesty. You can get them via doing the daily quest and also via conquest. However, I actively despise conquest at the moment, so I wouldn't sort of recommend going in conquest. So the next question is, are there any good greater essences, or should I just put lesser essences in the greater slot? Now, greater essences on their own really do suck. Like, for example, like Charred Flame Source or Searing Flame Source, or just any greater essence on its own does suck. But with the glorified and venerated Torven Hunter's essences, you can use these in combination with the essences and upgrade them, which basically combines a lesser essence and a greater essence to give you that lesser essence's stats with the greater essence proc. Now, these can be quite expensive to actually buy. Well, the greater essences are the main expense for these. So really, they're kind of a super min-max luxury if you can afford them. I mean, even I haven't got sort of the best in slot flame one, which is the Hunt Legends Mender's Greater Brimstone, because I quite frankly can't afford it at the moment. But I do have the Hunt Legends Mender's Rough Greater Brimstone, which is the one with the fire proc and not the crit power proc, in one of my slots. And then I have a kind of random essence that I got from a lockbox a while back, which is slightly better than one you can buy from venerated Torven Hunters, which gives me a shitload of crit power and also a lovely fire damage proc as well. So to answer your question quite simply, greater essences on their own are a bad idea, but when upgraded with a venerated or glorified Torven Hunter's essence, can become pretty damn good to use, and you should ideally fill those in the greater slots. So on to the next question. Should I aim for any specific resistances, or maybe try to get a little of each resistance? So basically, resistance really doesn't matter at all. Like, I would pretty much ignore it. It does affect sort of the damage you take slightly from certain things, but it's just nothing to aim for, really. There's no specific fight in the game at the moment. It doesn't make the difference like it used to back in sort of, when you had Hammernail and Infernal Dawn and that. So building a core around your resist, or what boss you're fighting, really isn't needed, and you are much better off going for just the best possible DPS stats you can get when building a DPS core, or the most endurance you can get when building a tank core. So, the final question that he has is, if my essence is upgradable, do I need to remove it from the planar focus before I upgrade it? And the answer to that is yes, unfortunately. If you want to upgrade the essence, you will need to remove it, and you can remove it via a planar unsocketing device, which can be purchased via the Rift store. I believe they are fairly cheap. Let me just see if I can quickly bring one up. Yeah, there they are. So, 144 credits, which is about the equivalent to 100 to 150 plat, depending on which region you play on. So that is pretty damn cheap in terms of sort of endgame money. So you shouldn't worry too much about those, because they're fairly easy to get. and you can buy a shitload of them. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the guide, guys. I hope you've learned a thing or two about planar focuses and kind of what cores you should be building at endgame, a bit about sort of what you should be aiming for, what you shouldn't. I believe there may have been a thing or two that I missed from this guide, so if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will get around to answering them as soon as I possibly can. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. You guys are awesome. So feel free to leave a like, just as a bit of moral support for myself. Comment on the video, tweet it, all this kind of fun subscriber and social media stuff that you can do. Thank you once again for watching, guys, and take care.